What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Regular Guy Vikings Hour. I am the Regular Guy, and I'm so excited to be recording another game preview for you guys. This time, Week 4, Vikings-Packers. Huge game. Can't wait to get into it. Um, Man, I recorded a little short earlier in the week, just kind of talking about how I was what kind of stuff I had coming for you. It's been kind of a crazy week. We had to get our Halloween decorations up and stuff like that, and so it kind of ate into my time. And so hey, home life, family stuff that comes first, and then I kind of do this on the side as a hobby. So I'm coming at you late. It's past 1 a.m. here on the West Coast, so. Hopefully, for those of you who have a chance to watch this, you'll be able to catch it before the game starts tomorrow. As always, just thank you for watching. If you could, please give me a thumbs up and a subscription. Again, I haven't really made any headway in that department yet, but like I said, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep recording, and hopefully eventually it goes somewhere. So for now, at the very least, I get to do what I love, and that is talk about the Vikings and talk about football. And I'm actually going to do what I did last week. I'm actually going to record a second episode later tonight and do my picks and stuff like that. So I've noticed that those videos get a few more views, and so I think maybe some people are a little bit more interested in the gambling aspect. And for those Vikings fans out there who are watching this, welcome to the Vikings-Packers preview show, okay? So let's go ahead and start off. As I always do, we're going to talk about the guys who are going to be active, at least who I predict will be active, and what kind of injuries we're looking at and stuff like that. So it's actually, I kind of predicted this coming up. It felt this way. I know that when the injury report first came out on Wednesday, there was like a bunch of guys on it, like 10 to 12 guys on it. They eventually fell off, and so literally there's nobody else on the injury report this week except for Ivan Pace Jr., who is out for the game. So 2 weeks in a row for Ivan, which is a bummer. We're going to miss him, but with the way that Camus played last week, if he keeps that up, then I think we'll be okay. So just to get started on inactives, we see a report coming in again, and maybe it's better that I record these late on a Saturday because it gives me a chance to see who is being called up from the practice squad. But we've got the same two guys coming up from the practice squad this week, and that is going to be Robert Tonyan and Bo Richter are going to be in this game. So now with some of our guys healthier, because we were down Dallas Turner last week, and in addition to Ivan Pace, and so this week it's going to look pretty similar. Jalen Redmond, and I don't think is going to get in this time. So the inactives I look for, of course, your third emergency quarterback, Brett Rippon. Again, Walter Rouse will be out, is what I think. I think Tristan Jackson was the other guy who actually got playing time last week. I think Tristan, again, inactive for this one. Jalen Redmond, LDR, Levi Drake Rodriguez, I think they'll be out. And then Dwight McLeodern will be out. Fabian Moreau, I think, will dress once again. And then, of course, Ivan Pace being injured. And so he's out for the game. And so those are the guys I think will sit. Again, like I said, practice squad call-ups, Tonyan, Richter, they'll be dressing. This will actually be our first time this year having 6 edge rush guys on the active roster, so that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing some mixing and matching in this game. So let's get right into it. And right before we do, let's have a little drink of the purple Kool-Aid, shall we? And we'll get into it. So this starts my segment, which I basically just call Packers Recon. So it's whatever team we're playing this week. It's my reconnaissance work on the opposing team. So right away, the first note I have here is that Matt LaFleur, he's a great head coach. He's a great offensive mind. He's a great play caller. And so just what I have written here is that he is a skilled offensive schemer and play caller. And he's more proven and has a longer track record of success than O'Connell at this point. So you have to at least give the Packers what I believe a slight edge in the offensive scheming and play calling department, even though Coach KOC is obviously ascending to being one of the best guys best coaches in the league, and at some point very soon, I think we'll be at LaFleur's level. But for now, LaFleur does have a slight edge here. And in addition to that, he's just kind of overseen a blossoming of the young talent on this roster. In addition to the young quarterback Jordan Love, and that's in the post Rodgers era. And I think maybe they did have one down year after Rodgers left, or maybe it was just actually Rodgers being gone. That was just last year. So the first half of the year they struggled, but then they bounced back, made the playoffs, won a playoff game. So clearly LaFleur's doing something good there. Doing something right, and so again, this young roster is just really blossoming and coming into their own, and so the Packers are a formidable foe. Okay, LaFleur, unlike what Shanahan did in week 2, he actually is willing to commit to the run, and you can see that because they've been the number 1 running offense in the NFL so far this season through 3 games. Some of that has to do with Malik Willis and his escapability. Some of it has to do with Jaden Reed getting the ball in his hands and breaking off some big plays. But they still, I think, have handed the ball off to running backs over 30 times a game. Maybe not in each individual game, but their average over the first 3 games is 30 plus running back carries per game, and they average over 4 yards a carry. So they're stout in that area. So look to LaFleur to try and take over the game with his running game to control time of possession, keep our offense off the field. But he's gonna commit to the run. He's gonna use the run, and then he's gonna use it. Even if they're not having success running the ball, he's gonna use it as a potential threat on play action. Okay, so our corners really got to be aware of that and not fall for those types of fakes in this one. He's going to want to slow down our pass rush, right? Obviously, our pass rush is going to be a big part of our success in this game, and so he's going to want to use that constant threat of the run to just slow down the pass rush, make them think twice. And I think that he's also really skilled at creating one-on-one matchups down the field for deep passes, potential touchdowns, and having the right quarterback is key to that. Jordan Love likes to throw the ball down the field. He can be very aggressive throwing the ball down the field. And so if we're not careful and we find one of our cornerbacks in a one-on-one situation down the field with somebody like Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson, it could spell trouble. So we need to number one, the first thing we really got to do is just take care of the running game, stop the running game, and then hopefully that's going to allow our guys to play a little bit more loose and not worry so much about it, and put the Packers into more long down and distance situations, more obvious passing situations. So we'll see, hopefully. This feels like this has been a staple of the Green Bay offense for years and years, even going back to the Favre years. But they love to run quick play actions and then throw slants. It feels like our corners have always struggled to cover those types of routes. So slants, watch out for those. Using the play action to kind of maybe freeze up the linebackers. And our corners need to be on their game. They need to cut off those routes and make plays. And at the very least, even if they get a catch here and there, make big hits on those to make the receivers, get the alligator arms, be a little bit more fearful of going over the middle. Byron Murphy, right? He's such an integral part of this defense because it just seems like he's always matched up, or schematically is always kind of a guy that they can be targeting. And so Byron Murphy yet again is here's another game where we need Byron to play well and be on his game. I also look for certain plays such as like fake pitches right to left, and then letting like a crossing route develop across the field where they maybe fake pitch to the right, have the crossing route coming from right to left, getting the ball to him, and then that actually creates a ton of open field over to the left side when everyone's bit on the run. So again, this goes back to my first point about let's stop the run first. Let's not bite on those fakes. Watch out for these kind of shallow patterns, these slants and these crossing patterns. That's really an integral part of what LaFleur does, and it's something that has made Green Bay's offense difficult to deal with over the years. And just part of that, having these guys run these long routes across the field, that's going to make our corners chase. It's going to tire them out. So again, just we've got to be on the lookout for that, and hopefully Coach Flo's got something dialed up for kind of either preventing it or maybe taking advantage of it from the defensive side. All right. I see that he plays a lot of games with ghost motions, and that's kind of like where the receiver will run behind the quarterback and then kind of like curl around him. Sometimes he'll continue on the directions he's running, or he'll curl back around the quarterback and then go back to where he came from. But lots of ghost motion, lots of misdirection. He's a really really tricky play caller. So again, linebackers. In the secondary, they're going to have to really bring an A game in this one. And then just really one of the key components of this game, in my opinion, is keeping plays in front of them, mitigating the big plays, or, again, love throwing the ball down the field, getting potential pass interference calls, getting 30, 40 yards at a time on a penalty. As I'm seeing here, Green Bay actually has 17 plays of 20 or more yards so far this year through 3 games, which is essentially 6 a game. 10 of those passing, 7 of those running. So they're pretty balanced. So we got to watch out for big plays from both aspects of the offense. Okay, so moving on to Jordan Love, now what he brings. So he wasn't really much of a scrambler in the first place. I was looking at some of his just some running statistics from previous years, and he will run maybe 3 or 4 times a game, but he only averaged about maybe like 4 to 5 yards, which means it's basically just in like crucial situations when he's trying to pick up a third down. I don't really think that that's going to be much of an issue in this game. He came back after 2 weeks from the sprained MCL. So I doubt that he really scrambles much, if at all, in this game. But he really likes to play from within the pocket anyway. His play style kind of reminds me a lot of CJ Stroud, but maybe just a little bit more developed. But then at the same time, I think that he's a little bit more of a risk taker in that, and probably a lot of that had to do with just kind of, just being raised in the NFL underneath Aaron Rodgers and seeing his style, and Rodgers kind of giving him bits and pieces of advice of where he can take advantage of defenses, and so makes Love a little bit more of a gunslinger than I think Stroud is. I think Stroud plays a little bit more close to the vest, so I think we can have a game like we had against Stroud, but I think that Love will probably be willing to take more chances, and so again, just preventing those big plays. I don't really see. I did see quite a bit of RPOs with Willis, right? Because he's such a threat with his legs, and so with Love again not being much of a scrambler and coming off the sprained MCL, I don't see a lot of RPO in this game. If they do, I would have to assume that our defense is smart enough to not fall for that, because clearly the quarterback's not going to keep. So we shouldn't be falling for that. Okay, so Jordan Love, in my opinion, likes to play a little bit of more improv ball. Again, this is kind of just like the descendant of Favre and Rodgers, and now to Love, just more of like an improvisation kind of off-script guy. He likes to play from within the pocket, but he doesn't always like to play within structure. He likes to kind of move around a little bit, let the receivers kind of break off their patterns, come back to the ball, and then that's when things start getting a little bit haywire, because you can only expect your secondary to cover for so long, that just a handful of seconds before the ball needs to be coming out. So if he's moving around in the pocket, being a little bit slithery and not going down and kind of moving his way around looking for open guys, I mean, it could create problems for us. So I expect our defensive line and our linebackers to really be on their toes and at their best and disciplined, and making sure that when they get chances to get a shot on him and get him down to the ground, that they do that. Okay. And again, just like I talked about before, he's always looking for big plays down the field. He is a very aggressive throwing the ball deep, and he's actually pretty good at it. He's pretty accurate down the field. So again, just this off-script stuff, this improvisational stuff could hurt us, but I think it will at the very least be a little bit limited. He's going to be more of a statue in this one, I think, which is good news for us, because I don't think that's necessarily his game. I have a hunch that he's going to be feeling himself a little bit in this one, simply because of the way that he played against us in the last game last year, the way he just kind of torched us. But let's not forget, right, this is a completely different defense. There's so much more talent, and he's coming off an injury, so he's not going to be quite 100%. So I still think mentally he's going to be feeling really, really good about his chances and opportunities to kind of get us in this one. And I see him making some kind of risky, turnover-worthy plays in this one, and I think we have a real opportunity to, to maybe make him pay and maybe start to get a big lead in this one. Who knows? I think there's definitely more of an opportunity for the Vikings to blow out the Packers than there is the Packers to blow out the Vikings. I think if the Packers do end up winning this one, I think it'll be a close game. So I just feel like when it comes to Jordan Love, much like his predecessors, a lot of his game feeds off of confidence and momentum. So it's like we really got to focus on just not letting him get hot to start the game. And if we do that, I think the rest of the game is going to kind of speak for itself. So really it's going to be important early in the game. If you don't let Love get going, if you don't let him get hot, and you start shutting down the running game a little bit, it's going to keep the game tight at the very least. And unless we start to blow them out, it'll at least keep the game close. And then it's not going to allow them to start leaning on the running game against us, and start, owning time of possession, keeping our offense off of the field. We want to keep them in more long yardage situations, right? Long down and distance, long third downs. Put them in obvious passing situations, and those are going to be great opportunities for our defense to make big plays and get sacks and things like that. And we can be very opportunistic. We've seen that. We've been turning the ball over. I think we have 5 turnovers so far this year on defense to go along with the 16 sacks. So if things play out right, I think our defense has yet another chance to have a big day. And then finally, I have just one last bit on Love, and that is, I'm going to get to the O-line here in a few minutes, but if he's really not 100% in this game, I feel like he's going to be a little bit of a sitting duck, because I feel like that offensive line is overrated for what the statistics bear out to what they've been doing so far this year. I was very unimpressed with what I saw by the offensive line, and so I just really do think and hope that Coach Flores brings an aggressive defensive game plan and just doesn't give Love even an opportunity or a chance to look downfield, and try and get those long ball shots in this game. So hopefully we'll see. I also have a hunch in this one, just because of kind of the way things played out with Love slowly getting better, and eventually, I think at one point this week, LaFleur said he'd be a game-time decision. Now he is officially going to start. I think they reported that maybe late yesterday or at some point today. But I think they are going to have a few occasions in this game where they're going to bring in Malik Willis and kind of just use him as a weapon. Maybe try a couple of those RPOs. Maybe try and get Willis to make some big plays with his legs. I think that LaFleur is, again, clever in that way, with the way that he strategizes and creates a game plan. And so look for Willis to come in on probably a handful of different occasions, and maybe LaFleur kind of looking for like a spark or something for the offense to get them going, particularly early in the game. And or if he's noticing that the offense is playing sluggishly, he might bring him in to kind of mix things up and maybe get things going. So look for Willis to maybe get just a few looks in this game. Okay, so now we're on to the running backs. So I have noticed personally, just based on some of the film that I watched, was that their inside run game is not good, especially early in the game. Teams can stuff them fairly easily. Really, where they were able to create their big play running attack, at least early in games to open things up, was either Jaden Reed on like jet sweeps or reverses, things like that, right? I think they scored a long touchdown against the Eagles with Jaden Reed carrying the ball. So look out for Reed again. That's a guy who has big playability, not only as a receiver, but also with the ball in his hands as a running back. Then, of course, just Willis by himself kind of getting things going just by, designed runs to him, RPOs, that kind of stuff. But so far what I've seen is that aside from those guys creating big plays in the run game, the running backs themselves haven't really impressed me that much, except for later in the games when they started to lean on that running game and kind of hold on to a lead. So again, I have no doubt that LaFleur is going to commit to the run game as much as he can, depending on how the score goes. but they just don't seem to click until later in the game. And so if we can just hold them down and create some separation in the score, I just don't think they'll ever have a chance to get the run game going. So by no means do I think they're gonna run for 200 yards on us in this game. I don't see that bearing out. But again, if the game's tight and our defense is getting tired, or the defensive line is a little bit thin. I mean, when you have 6 edge guys being active, you're only going to have 4 on the defensive line, right? And so we're going to need Bullard, Tillery, and Phillips to play really well, and really just be playing disciplined, filling gaps, taking on double teams, just letting the linebackers do their work. So there was just very little, from what I could tell, running back specific success, especially in the first halves against Philadelphia and Tennessee. They did have a lot of success against Indianapolis. I don't know what happened to the Colts in that game. The Colts just got completely run all over. So you at least have to give them credit for that game. But in 2 of the 3 games that I watched, Philadelphia and Tennessee, the running backs didn't strike a lot of fear in me, especially running on the inside. Now, I have started to notice a bit of a trend is that Wilson, the other running back that's backing up Josh Jacobs, he's actually come in and really provided a spark and a hot hand, kind of the same way that Ty Chandler has at time for our team. And so he's kind of streaky. When he gets hot, he can really get going. And so he can be trouble, especially when he gets pitch plays and plays outside the tackles when he gets the ball in his hands, much like the way Jordan Mason did with the 49ers, where that guy kind of broke off a few really nice runs when he got outside and got into the second level. So I'm really hoping that we really watch out for Wilson in particular. Jacobs, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to quite have the same... I don't know, just spryness or whatever you want to call it to him, but Wilson looks like he could be a real threat. So let's watch out for that guy, and hopefully he doesn't have the same kind of success that Mason did. Okay, so moving on, I'm actually going to kind of group their tight ends and wide receivers together, simply because, in my opinion, they have 6 young and capable guys at these receiving positions, and they were all drafted in either 22 or 23. It was Watson and Dobbs in 22. Then they brought in Reed and Wicks in 23, in addition to both tight ends, Kraft and Musgrave. And so, although there isn't any one particular star among this group, although Jaden Reed is starting to emerge with kind of his big playability, and we'll see if he continues that, but they're definitely just a large group of capable guys at the receiving skill position, which kind of allows Green Bay, I think, to not really key in or focus in on one guy. And for the defense, they can't key in and focus in on the one guy, because they have everybody has the ability to make a play, and so they can really spread the ball around, and it makes it difficult to plan against them, because you can't really just say, okay, well, this guy can be this guy can be this. They can get the ball to a lot of different guys, and all of them can make plays. So you really, you just have to play kind of just solid all around, and just disciplined, and just make sure that you're not letting, just because you've got this covered, Christian Watson can be breaking open down the field, or Jaden Reed suddenly is running a reverse and breaking off a big play. It could come from anywhere. So it's just, we'll see. LaFleur, again, talented play caller. It's a concern. All right. So I made this note about the offensive line. Although the statistics on offense look really good, the offensive line's overall lack of talent really surprised me. Just kind of when I went in and looked at them, I was like, okay, these guys aren't nearly as good as I would have thought they would have been with the number 1 running offense in the NFL. I didn't really feel like there's a lot to worry about here, and I think that we could probably own this offensive line, especially in the right game situation. Right off the bat, their center, Josh Myers, he's a recognizable name. I've heard his name for the last 4 years. And he is a little bit bigger than Bradbury. I think he's a few inches taller and like 10 pounds heavier. But he was a second-round pick in 2021 by the Packers, and he's in his 4th year now. And he's been their starting center the whole time, as far as I can recall. But he has never graded above 26th among all qualifying centers in the NFL, according to PFF. And it's like, yeah, I know I've had the issues with PFF's grades, particularly with Ed Ingram, but when you're consistently through 4 years now, going into a fourth year now, never getting above 26th out of like, maybe 35 centers in the league, that just shows me, like, I'm sorry, you just don't have the talent necessary to be a starting level center. But they probably just don't have anyone better. So Josh Myers is a guy we can take advantage of in this game. Okay, so the Packers do have two really good offensive linemen, and then the other three I think are very questionable. So uh, Elton Jenkins is their left guard, and he's been a really, really solid for them, a way above average guy for like going on 6 years now. He's always ranked like 20th or higher among guards. And so he's a guy, he'll take care of his business. And I think left guard, that's probably going to be Tillery. So we'll see if Tillery can get some pass rush opportunities on him. But so then Morgan, I believe he was like their late first round pick this year, out of Arizona, and I think he was actually a tackle. They moved him into guard, but he's out for this game, so that's going to bring in a guy named Sean Ryan. He's in his third year. He was a third-round pick for them, and he has not emerged at all. And in fact, he wouldn't be playing if Morgan was active. This is a guy I think who's going to be kind of a career backup guy. So again, that's another guy we could take advantage of. And then finally getting to the tackles, you have Zach Tom, who's their right tackle. And he's kind of an emerging player. He was a fourth-round pick in 2022. This is his third year now. He has slowly improved every single year, and so he has quietly become kind of a solid offensive lineman for them. And he's playing at a really high level so far this year. So that's a guy who might have a chance. I mean, again, it's not like Grenard's left, Van Ginkel's right, or whatever. We're going to be switching guys all around, and there's going to be a ton of pressure coming from everywhere. So who knows who Tom will end up being matched up on any given play, but he'll probably do pretty well for them. The guy we can take advantage of here is their left tackle. This guy's name is Rasheed Walker, and he leaves a lot to be desired for a left tackle. He's a seventh rounder from 2022. And he looks to be average on his best day, honestly. He can be taken advantage of. He's given up 5 pressures this year, and he also seems to be mistake prone because he's had 5 penalties. So, and I think maybe 2 of them were either declined or it was offsetting or something like that. But still, he's had 5 penalties called on him so far this year. Okay. And then finally, their kicker. It's so nice now that the Packers are having kicker struggles, right? They even tried out Greg Joseph, which is just funny to me because they just had Mason Crosby and they had Longwell before that until, obviously we had him for a little while. And so now they're finally struggling. And I think Anders Carlson was, he had a lot of issues for them last year. So they brought in this guy named Narvison. He has already missed 2 kicks this year, and they were both between 40 and 49 yards. So I think with maybe a little bit of nervousness about their kicker, I do look for LaFleur to be a little bit more aggressive if the Packers offense gets down to maybe between the 30 or 40-yard line, and maybe it's like 4th down and 4 or less. I would definitely think that LaFleur will probably be a little bit more aggressive with his offense and go for it in those situations. So I hope our defense is ready for that. And then just some kind of like miscellaneous offensive notes. Green Bay has a sacks against total so far. They've just allowed 5 so far this year. But I just think that that's a mirage, me personally, just based on, again, the running success, Malik Willis's escapability in those other 2 games. And, I think we have a chance. I mean, we already have 16 sacks this year. I mean, could we get another 5 in this game? I don't know. I think it's definitely possible. Maybe even more. Who knows? I mean, who knows how this game's going to go? And I felt like I really understood what I was looking at and how I could predict the games in the first 3 weeks. This one, I'm kind of all over the place. But again, like I said before, I either think tight, it could go either way, or if there is a blowout in this one, I think it's us. Even though we're on the road, I just don't think it matters. Okay, and then in addition to that, the offense has 19 penalties, 17 accepted through 3 games. So that's like 6 a game, man. That's a lot of penalties on the offense. So they just seem a little bit undisciplined. So they're young, that's to be expected. But that's something that could put them in some 3rd and long type situations and allow us to be opportunistic. And then I just had this kind of note about them because as I was kind of looking into their team and seeing what they were all about, I get this kind of feeling that they're trying to build maybe like a Chiefs light, where they've got like a progressive offensive coach. They've got kind of like an improv off script, big play style of quarterback. and he doesn't really require any like name offensive players, right? You can just kind of like fill in your roster with just like, hey, a second round pick here, a fourth round pick here, maybe a like mid range free agent here. Just kind of fill in the roster, and then just let the quarterback and the offensive creator do their thing. The defense can be like just good enough, and they'll win the close ones. And so I think that's kind of the blueprint they're going for. They're trying to build kind of like a Chiefs light kind of a situation here. Hopefully they don't pull it off. Obviously, we don't want that. I think we're going to be the best team in the North going forward, so long as we can take down Detroit. But yeah, so that finalizes my thoughts on the Packers offense. I had a lot to say about the Packers offense. I have a lot less to say about the defense. There's just not a lot here, but a little, there's some, but not a lot. So first of all, again, another situation where we have kind of like a brand new coordinator, this time on the defensive side, a guy named Jeff Hafley. He last worked in the NFL with the 49ers for 3 years between 16 and 18. So he hasn't even been in the NFL for 6 years. But he has been almost for his entire career a defensive backs coach. He's actually formerly, his most recent job was head coach of Boston College. And again, just a long history of defensive back coaching. And it's kind of, it makes sense to me now, just seeing how their secondary is really playing much better this year so far. It makes sense that their D coordinator will be a secondary guy. So, but again, I think, O'Connell against a first-year D coordinator, 6 years removed from the NFL. I think O'Connell can take advantage of this guy. Okay, so this is easily, in my opinion, the least talented front seven that we will have faced so far this year. The Giants, the 49ers, the Texans, they all boasted at least one, two, maybe even three high-end playmakers in that front seven. This group doesn't really have anyone that you would say, oh, I got a game plan around that guy. It's like, yeah, we have guys that have kind of given us issues over the years, such as like Kenny Clark and Preston Smith, and even Rashawn Gary has had his moments. But you don't have to really scheme around any of these guys. They don't really, they're not gonna wreck a game like we've talked about, in previous games, like Dexter Lawrence and Nick Bosa, or guys like Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson. So I think this is a front seven that can be handled. Especially in the run game. I think we have an opportunity to have a really great day running the ball. So this team is young practically everywhere. They're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. And this is also true of the defensive line, save for just, a couple of veterans sprinkled in there. But 4 of the rotational guys were draft picks in 22 and 23. And it just seems like none of those guys have really developed the way they have hoped. And so they really rely on their big three, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, to make big plays for them. They require good games from, I think, at least 2 of those 3 to kind of elevate their defense. So if we can hold those guys in check, I mean, this defense is in for a long day. So the D-line and the edge combined, they rotate a total of 8 guys. They use several different formations. They do a lot of different player combos, so they like to kind of mix and match in the front to try and confuse offenses, not really know where the pressure is coming from or which guy it is. Or so I've seen them line up 4 guys. I've seen them line up 3 guys, and so they'll switch between a 3-man front, a 4-man front. So clearly they've got a lot of guys who are versatile and can play in a lot of different positions. So that'll keep us on our toes. So that's one thing they have going for them. They're going to try and create confusion. They're going to try and create mismatches. But I think that our offensive line, they are a little bit suspect in pass protection. We've talked about that. We know how that goes with them. But I think if we can really just kind of wear them down with the run game and just beat them up, I think we'll take care of this front seven. So just as I said before, aside from Clark, Smith, and Gary, nobody other than, I would say, maybe Enagbare, who has kind of flashed as a pass rusher, nobody's really making much of a splash among these young guys in this front seven. And so without the vets, the group's very unimpressive. All right, so the linebackers, this is kind of like my biggest key to the game. The linebackers is where we will win this game, because Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie are just straight up bad. They miss a lot of tackles. and we're just going to eat these guys lunch all day long. I think KOC is going to really expose them and take advantage of them all game long. They do practically nothing at a high level, and I think really the only thing that between the two of them, the only thing they have going for them is that Quay Walker's fast. But I kind of see him as more of like a Brian Oswalt type, where it's like, yeah, you're fast and athletic, but if you play out of control or undisciplined, what good are you? You know, you're just hurting the defense. So, yeah. So they mildly mix in a couple of other guys for about 10 snaps a game apiece. They got a second-round pick this year, a guy named Edgerrin Cooper, who I think might be a good prospect for them. And maybe he gets more and more playing time as the year goes on, right? As they start to notice more and more that their starting linebackers just simply aren't up to snuff. And then old teammate Eric Wilson. He's backing up at linebacker for the Packers now. So welcome back, Eric. Okay. At corner, they have a couple of pretty good corners. They have Jair Alexander. They have Eric Stokes. But honestly, like, look at the corners we faced last week. Lassiter and Stingley, right? Like, we've faced better corners than these guys. So it's like, what are we even scared of? We took advantage of those guys. We'll take advantage of these guys. So it's like, yeah, I had that game turn out, right? 34-7 Vikings. So neither guy really moves the needle for me. Jair is obviously their better corner, and he's had a good career. I think he's better served as more of a slot guy. I think he's more of an aggressive guy. He comes up and run support. He's I don't know, just kind of sticky. You know what I mean? Like he's tough, he's sticky, he's gritty, and so that he's definitely best in the slot, but they play him on the outside. I think he can be taken advantage of on the outside. And then he's just this guy is such a mental, he plays like the mental game, right? He tries to get into your head. He's just more bark than bite. I think like he talks a bigger game than he actually has talent. And so I think that you take him out early, you get some big plays on him early. That guy mentally, he's out. You've got him. You're in his head. So Jair's a guy we can take advantage of. Keyshawn Nixon's their nickel guy. He seems to struggle in coverage, so he's not great. Another guy that we can take advantage of. And I expect to see a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of, in the same way that I expect the Packers to do the same to us, except we actually have real talent in that area of the field. We might be trying to run a lot of this underneath stuff, crossing patterns and things of that nature, except, we have guys like Jefferson and Addison and Naylor. And so I look for us to really take advantage of the Packers in the middle of the field. They also had a guy, I think it's Carrington Valentine. He's doubtful for this one. He's played some snaps here and there. It does slightly hurt their depth a little bit, but he doesn't really play that much. Okay, so safety, here's where the Packers are actually dangerous, and it's because of one guy, free agent addition. I don't know if it's Xavier or Xavier, but McKinney, he's been playing outstanding in coverage. He's one of the best coverage safeties in all of football. He is their best defensive player, in my opinion, at least right now, the way he's playing. I recommend not trying to attack this guy. So again, more important to attack the middle of the field and not try and go over the top and test this guy. The other safety is a guy named Javon Bullard. He seems like an unspectacular but capable, solid box safety type of guy. I think, he does his job. Let's see, we're coming up on 40 minutes. I think we'll make it. I'm always so concerned about making sure I give you the full regular guy Vikings hour. Oh, man, and it's almost October 1st, man. We got the decorations up today. I love this time of year, man. I love it. We have a really, really busy corner. We live in a corner house. We have a really, really busy corner here. We get tons and tons of kids. I mean, to the point to where we've actually run out of candy 2 years in a row. And so this year, you probably see the candy, what is it, on that side, stacked behind me. I'm starting to already pile up candy, getting ready for it. But this corner is just a lot of fun. So we do a Beetlejuice house, and it's so much fun every year. So anyway, back to football. Okay, special teams. Their special teams coach is Rick Bisaccia, formerly the guy who took over for Gruden in, I guess it was Vegas at the time. I can't quite remember. He did a really great job, but he just didn't want to be a head coach. He wanted to be a special teams coach. So he's with Green Bay now. Highly respected guy. The returners are Jaden Reed as their punt returner, Keyshawn Nixon as their kick returner. They haven't had a lot of opportunities yet this year, but I think both guys are pretty talented. So if you give them a chance, they can break one off. The coverage units, I can't really say that I really looked at it or noticed anything special about them. I think PFF has them graded pretty low, but Bisaccia is a really respected coach. I think that he'll have his guys ready to play. So expect the Green Bay special teams to be, at least good on the day. But maybe we'll, I think we're 2 weeks running now of having a better special teams day than our opponents, and those were two pretty good teams. So maybe that trend continues. Okay, so the Green Bay defense is coming off of back-to-back weeks of playing against Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. That's probably given their defense quite a bit of confidence because they're coming off of two really good games. At the same time, it's going to inflate their egos, okay? And so beyond the actual talent of the overall defense, I feel like this game could be a real reality check for them. And I think it'd be really, really sweet if our team was the one to give it to them, hopefully. Yeah, so that's just about it for the defensive thoughts. I feel like they really lean heavily on 5 guys on this defense: McKinney, Alexander, Gary, Smith, and Clark. Clark is a little dinged up. I think he has a thing with a toe, so maybe he's slowed a little bit. Gary hasn't really got off to a really good start so far. Preston Smith, he's over 30 now. And Jair, you can take him out of the game mentally, right? McKinney's really the one guy you have to concern yourself with. But, I mean, if the rest of them aren't playing as well as they had hoped, and McKinney's the only guy having a good game. I mean, we saw Bosa have a great game against us, and we still took care of the 49ers. So, if at least 3 or more of those guys are wreaking havoc in this game and playing well, then we could have problems. So hopefully we can kind of neutralize them. But otherwise, this D is kind of thin and doesn't really concern me that much. If some of their younger guys start to step up a little bit, then yeah, the defense may start to to have something going for them. But for now, I think as they start to age, they really don't add guys through free agency often. So if those draft picks don't start to develop, they could be in some trouble defensively. So amazingly, this defense, again, we talked about this defensive backs. Defensive coordinator, right? That's kind of his bread and butter. This defense has 7 interceptions to 3 games, which is insane. They're certainly very aggressive, right? And I think that we can use that against them if done properly. But if you take, again, you're going against Anthony Richardson, you're going against Will Levis. I think we probably talked about this in the Houston pregame too, where it's like the quarterbacks you're going against are inflating your stats a little bit, and then look what we did to him. And then even Jalen Hurts, who he's he has shown flashes of being a great thrower of the football, but man, he makes a lot of mistakes too. And so yeah, they got a couple picks off him too. So I just don't think they've really gone up against a really talented passer yet this year. I think Darnold's going to be the most talented passer they've faced so far this year, and so I think it's a recipe for us to maybe get a fast start and kind of take this one all the way, the full 60 minutes, and kind of cruise to a win. Wouldn't that be nice to cruise to a nice win in Lambeau? All right, so moving on. Actually, need a little bit of water real quick. Hang on. A little bit of dry mouth. Okay. I just want to talk a little bit about Viking-specific stuff, okay? Well, not Viking-specific, but it's things that I parsed it out from the offense and the defense and kind of set it to its own separate tab that I call just Vikings game preview, more or less. Okay, so this is one thing that I will say about the Packers roster, and that is, considering how many players that I saw coming out of that 2022 and 2023 draft, and how much they're at least contributing in terms of just being on the field, you have to at least give them credit for building this roster the way that they have. I mean, the team is good. They're coming off a year where they had a hot second half. They won a playoff game. They were very competitive. I mean, they damn near got to the NFC Championship game. So when you consider how young they are, the way they've constructed this team, you have to be at least a little bit impressed by that, and you have to give their front office a lot of credit. I think they're doing a really good job building this team. But again, I think on offense, I think they've got a lot more hits on offense. On defense, I think they're waiting for some of those guys to work out and develop. And so, maybe by the end of this year, we'll kind of find out where that defense stands. Okay, I look for in this particular game for Coach KO to utilize more of those up tempo, no huddle style drives that he's been kind of implementing here and there through the first 3 games. Because as I talked about with their front seven, Green Bay's front seven, they like to do a lot of substitutions. They like to do a lot of rotations. And so if we can keep like the kind of older trio on the field, right? You keep Gary, you keep Preston Smith, you keep Kenny Clark out there and not allow them to sub, then I think maybe they're kind of at our mercy and we can be very proactive and take advantage of them. So I look for Coach O'Connell to bring some more of that up tempo into this game. Okay, so this is a very cool kind of old NFC North, old style matchup. On paper, it's not going to play out that way. I think there's going to be a lot of passing in this game, but I just love the fact that you have the number one rushing offense going up against the number two rushing against defense. It just in terms of yardage allowed, and so I love the look of that on paper, that style. It kind of reminds me of those old days, right? When football was a little bit more fierce and I don't know, tough or whatever. Okay, so again, I talked about the Packers leading the league in interceptions, and then the Vikings lead the league in sacks. So you have two very opportunistic, big playmaking style defenses. So there's gonna be a lot of fun on both sides of the ball. Honestly, it's well, I mean, it wouldn't be fun for us on the other side, but there's a lot of things will be happening. I think there's gonna be a lot of big moments in this game. Okay. For me, this game is going to be all about who starts out fast. I've talked about in a previous show about how right now our first quarter score, or however you phrase that, is 24-3. We have outscored our opponents 24-3 in the first quarter so far this year, and those 3 points came against the New York Giants literally after we fumbled on our first drive, and then they kicked a field goal after our defense held them. Since that point, nobody has scored on us in the first quarter, and I expect that trend to continue. So you start out fast. You don't allow Green Bay to get their big plays because that's how they get their mojo going. You let them start getting chunk plays, big plays. That's when the crowd starts getting into it. That's when they start getting, just really kind of hot and streaky, and that's when you start to kind of lose your momentum. So, so far this season for us in all 3 games, and for Green Bay in 2 of them, they have enjoyed playing from ahead, and so. Both of our teams have really had an opportunity to lean into our strengths for the kind of the remainder of the game after we take a lead, and so someone in this game is going to get exposed, and we're going to find out who. Okay, and then just a key point. I mean, obviously Lambeau is one of the toughest places in the NFL to play. Keep their crowd subdued. Don't allow the big plays. Don't let them get into it. Minimize the yards after the catch. Play disciplined. Tackle really well. Watch out for those wide receiver reverses and jet sweeps. Watch out for those outside runs with a guy like Wilson who can break those pitch plays, and just keep that offense of theirs suffocated, and we can keep that defense out of the game. And then, of course, don't turn the ball over to them. Don't let them get big interceptions, right? Keep the crowd out of the game. So these are the Green Bay Packers we're talking about, right? They have a long history. They're one of the most storied franchises in NFL history. They typically win games like this, right? The crowd is coming into a game like this, and they are expectant. They have a very entitled way about them. They're like, we're gonna mow down the Vikings. We're gonna show them that their 3-0 start is a mirage, and prove that they're frauds. And we're gonna start our march toward winning the division. That's just the way they think because they're just so used to it, because the Packers have just been good for so long. So they're going to be waiting for their opportunity to pounce. They're going to be buzzing. They'll be they're probably tailgating right now. They're going to be buzzing, just ready to go, just ready to pounce. And they could become a difference in the game if we let them. So let's not let them, okay? So I'm feeling like we're going to win this. At the same time, don't let a close loss, if it does happen, dishearten you going forward, okay? We are going to make noise this year, and the future is very bright. So just don't lose sight of the ultimate goal, okay? And that is, this year, yes, we have our sights set pretty high, and if we do go 4-0, I mean, who knows how far we can take this thing, but 25 and beyond, our expectations could be even higher. So it's like just one loss at Green Bay. Don't let it dishearten you. I think if we lose, like I said, it'll be a close one. But just don't pin your hopes all on this one game, okay? I know it's Green Bay. I know we get up for this one. We put a lot of our emotions into it, but just don't let it bring you down if it goes south. Okay, I just some just random kind of notes here. I noticed that Blake Cashman he blitzed or rushed 12 times last week against Houston, which I thought was kind of interesting. I felt maybe that was going to leave the middle exposed, but Camus had a pretty damn good game. Those 12 rushes actually nearly equaled his total from the first two games, which was a total of 14. So Flores does bring him, on occasion. And but I just don't see a lot of pressure being created by Blake. I don't really see him as a very skilled pass rusher. So I'm actually kind of hoping I see him more in coverage. And he showed me a lot in that 49er game. I thought he showed excellent coverage chops. And so especially how I've talked about how LaFleur will try and take advantage of the middle of the field against our defense the same way I want Coach O'Connell to take advantage of theirs. I really want Cashman to bring his A game in coverage again this week, just like he did against the Niners. Okay, so then I actually kind of thought it would have hurt us more if Willis actually started this game, because I kind of saw Ivan Pace Jr. as being the spy on Willis for the game. And with as good a tackler as Pace is, Willis is very elusive. And so I felt like that could have been a real mismatch issue for us if Willis had started. So I'm actually kind of happy that Jordan Love is starting this game. And so I'm just hoping that our two downhill style linebackers, even though Cashman showed me some coverage chops that I wasn't really expecting out of him, but just let him play a lot of snaps, let him play downhill, and get in there, stop the run, plug the gaps. And so I just look forward to our linebackers having a good game here. And just let's see what this note is. Just that we're on the road, and so road games are difficult. It's on grass. You don't know what the condition of the field's going to be, and so I just hope that the team is prepared for a very important game like this. Okay, so Sam Darnold, just some important things that I think we need from him, and that is I want him to play eye games with McKinney, okay? Because I think McKinney is really, really savvy. He's going to be watching Darnold, watching where he's looking, and so I think that of any matchup so far this year, to look off the safety, it's going to be the most important in this game because they have one of the best safeties in the league. So I hope that Darnold really plays games with McKinney in this one. Keep him guessing, keep him off balanced all day. And then we need to get Justin Jefferson going early in this game. Take Jair mentally out of the game early, get Jets some big plays, and just let him kind of show him who's boss early, right? Put them on their heels. And I just feel like with kind of the way that he's a little bit of a head case, he likes to talk a lot, likes to chirp a lot, take him out of his game mentally, and he's done for the day. The run game, I think this is another key. So I talked about earlier taking advantage of those bad linebackers they have. Aaron Jones, in addition to just being supremely talented, he wants this game badly because just the way the Packers kind of asked him to take a pay cut and then gave his money to Josh Jacobs. So if we can open up some holes, which I think we will, and he gets to the second level, he's going to expose these linebackers, and he's in for a huge day. He might end up being my player of the game again. I mean, I love Aaron Jones, man. He's doing great. Again, just get Jets going early, build his confidence, build up that momentum, take Jair out of his game, open things up for Addison, right? Because then they'll start putting the focus on Jefferson. Now we've got Addison back, and then Addison can start taking advantage of Eric Stokes, which I'm sure he can. And so there's just so many great mismatch opportunities in this one for us to just really expose this Green Bay defense. And again, just the offensive line, I hope that they're ready for just like those different formations, those different player changes. And I mean, for the love of God, Garrett Bradbury and Ed Ingram, please don't let Kenny Clark wreck this game, please. Hopefully Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary can just be kind of silenced by our tackles. It's really what I'm hoping to see from the offensive line. I'd love to see a really great, powerful game from the offensive line. Just the tight ends, a quick note. I thought Tunyon would play more last week. He didn't. He only had 3 snaps. They were all run blocking snaps. He did play special teams. He probably will again this week. He didn't look great doing it last week, so whatever. But otherwise, I look for all of our tight ends to have a nice blocking day in the run game. Munt and Oliver and all those guys. So then, if Jordan Love truly is going to be immobile in this game because of the sprained MCL, and just isn't very mobile and not able to move around in the pocket and slide around and stuff as he's kind of used to, I look for our front seven to have a field day, and I look for kind of another big sack day, which I don't know at what point we start to even think about it, because it's like you get off to a hot start and then maybe you have 3 games where you get maybe like 2 or 3 sacks total, and suddenly you're off the pace. But I have my eye on that record right now. Those 72 sacks by the 85 Chicago Bears, I have my eye on that one. If we were to average 4 per game for the rest of the year, we would actually, I think, tie it. So I'm looking for another big day from the front seven. If they get like another 5 or 6 sacks in this game, I think you can maybe start talking about that record. But anyway, for right now, we'll just kind of let it play out. I think the Green Bay's offensive line can hold up against our guys if we just rush 4. And play a zone. I don't want us to be kind of soft in this game. I want us to be aggressive and kind of take advantage of the situations that are being kind of given to us, which as Love is a little bit injured, and maybe we can take advantage of that. So be creative and play aggressively. Okay. So it looks like we're going to have, like I said before, 6 active edge rushers in this one. I look for a lot of rotations. I look for guys being fresh late in the game. And it looks like we're just going to be bringing the heat from all over with as many different players as we can. And they're all capable. They're all really talented guys. And so I just think it could be a really big day. I think it could be a really big day. And then I already mentioned this before, but I said I would have been worried about Ivan Pace being out had Willis played. I kind of feel like we lucked out in that regard. I'm looking for a good day from Cash and Kamu. LaFleur is going to try and attack the underneath, but I think our guys will be up to the challenge. Okay, so a little bit more purple Kool-Aid as we trash the Packers. And you know what? Here, this is a good spot for me to actually do my score prediction, and I forgot to do my score prediction for the Texans game. It ended up being 34-7. I wouldn't have predicted anything close to that. I think I did think we were going to win, but I thought it'd be more like 23-20 or something like that. I didn't think we'd blow the Texans out, so I wouldn't have got that right anyway. But I think in this one, I see Reichard hitting a few field goals in this one. I'm going to say something like 26-17 Vikings. Okay, so finally on to some notes. And this one. Clearly winning this game is vitally important for us because despite what I said before about, hey, if we lose it, don't freak out. But if we were to continue this hot start, to get yet another win, move to 4-0, now we have a road win against a division opponent, against a team who was a playoff team last year. It's just going to look so impressive. Our 4-game resume to start the year will just look so impressive. It'll just be a nice icing on the cake of like the first quarter of the season, which I know the 17th game kind of ruined the perfect 4 quarters, but it's essentially the first quarter of the year. And I just think, man, if we can pull this one off and if we can win in the fashion that I think we can win, we can have maybe one of the best starts going back to 1998 to a season in our history. That year with Bradford, I don't know, that one always felt kind of weird to me. I forget what year that was, 2016, 18, whatever it was. I don't know, very forgettable year. So just another big newsworthy item that we talked about earlier was that Aaron Jones and his return to Lambeau. He wants to get in the end zone. He wants to do a Lambeau leap, except he wants to jump into the arms of some Vikings fans who might have front row tickets. We'll find out. He felt slighted, man. He was asked to take a pay cut even after the way he finished the year looking as good as he did, helping them get to the playoffs, win a game in the playoffs, almost beat Detroit. They ask him to take a pay cut, and then they turn around and give his money to Josh Jacobs. And he just wants to stick it to him, and man, I sure hope he does. The matchup of Justin Jefferson versus Jair Alexander, it really isn't much of a matchup. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL. Jair is just a good, solid cornerback who's better in the slot than he is on the outside. So I'm just really, really tired of this guy chirping in the ear of our Hall of Fame receiver. It's time to embarrass this guy and just shut him up for good. So let's do that. Let's go for the jugular. All right, and then just kind of some sad news. And we're at about an hour here, and I hate to end it on sad news, so I'll say a little bit of extra after that. And I'll start with the other guy, but Favre was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's, and despite my own personal feelings about the guy and his shady business dealings and stuff that he's kind of having to answer for now, I'm very sorry to hear that. It's a terrible disease, and I just feel terrible for him and his family. So, sending love out his way, at least for dealing with that. That's really unfortunate. I'm very sorry to hear that. A side note about Favre, though, and this has nothing to do with that, is just that when I take everything into consideration in hindsight, and I kind of like, say, okay, I know what I know now as opposed to then. I'm actually kind of glad we didn't win that Super Bowl with Favre. I didn't like the way it ended, clearly, and so of course you want a Super Bowl on your resume, for the team that you root for. But he was just always a mercenary to me, and I just think it ultimately meant more to him to prove the Packers that they made a mistake and to stick it to them than it ever did to win with the Vikings. We were just kind of like a secondary storyline for him. And so I never even once considered buying a number 4 jersey. I've seen plenty of people who have, and it's like, I mean, good for you, I guess, but it's like that guy killed us in Green Bay for years upon years. So he comes to play for us. I thought he was just going to play the 1 year. He ends up trying to play 2. That didn't work out. I actually thought he should have retired after the 1 year. It was like it ended the way it ended. See you later. Let's move on. But that felt like blasphemy to me. I was like, why would I ever wear a purple Favre jersey? I never even considered that. That was crazy to me. So just, if I had to now years later, like we'd be like 15 years after the fact now, and I would brag about that one Super Bowl we won with Favre, but we had to like utilize a Packers legend in order to do it. Like that just would have felt like gross and hollow to me. So honestly, I'm glad we didn't win it in hindsight. Obviously I didn't feel that way when we lost, but screw the Saints. Okay, and then just, the final note of the show just is this. Tommy Kramer and the diagnosis of dementia, just what an unfortunate development. He's just been such a great ambassador for the team. He's such a Viking through and through. He's got that super cool and funny bathroom in his house with like the Packers urinal and stuff like that. And he goes to all of those Vikings related fan outings and stuff, and meets with people and goes to parties and stuff. He's such a great, fun guy, and just like I said, a great ambassador for the team, and just a great Viking. So all I can really say just to Tommy Kramer is that you were one of my favorite Vikings quarterbacks that I ever watched. I didn't become a fan until 87. That was the tail end of your career, and Wade Wilson was starting to kind of take over at that point. But I did get to see the final days, and I still got to see that really cool kind of gunslinger, almost reckless in a way, play that he exhibited on the field. And so I really felt lucky to have seen Tommy play, and I just hope that his how many more years he gets, that his final years are just comfortable and fulfilling. And it's just devastating news, and I'm just so sad to hear that about Tommy Kramer. So I don't want to end the show on a sad note like that. I am done with all of my segments. I just want to say this. The final score prediction was, of course, Vikings 26, Packers 17. I think we win. I think we make it look somewhat easy. I think we get a lot of sacks. I think we make Jordan Love look like Stroud did, a little confused, a little like, what's going on here? We moved to 4-0. We put yet another great win under our belt, and away we effing go, right? Like, let's do this. So anyway, the mantra of the show, baby, and that is play vicious, be victorious. Peace.